Computer, boom. Okay, it's recording. All right, so I should have that, no problem. How you doing, Noah? It's good to
I'm
see you.
doing really well. Doing good,
Well,
doing good.
I love your stuff, right? It's like
Thank you.
you well know that my lifestyle is different, and I'm transparent about it. But what I say to these guys, I say, dudes, where they're like, well, you date brown women and it's all this, you know what I mean, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like I'm dudes, I'm 63 years old. I'm not 20. I don't advise what I'm doing. If you're 20 years old, you want to be looking for a good woman and have some kids, right? I'm way beyond that, right? And in fact, I've stewarded children here in Thailand, right? And it blows my mind that some guys think that's a bad thing to do because they're not white skinned people. They're they're
Well,
little
the
girls.
guys that complain the most are the guys that don't have any woman,
Yeah,
because men with a woman don't have time to complain about what another man does with their women.
exactly. Yeah. You're always good with this, right? You always see it, me. You always see, well, what's going on underneath? Because you deal with these relationships, right? So when you have this dispute, these people have this dispute. It's like, well, what's his motivations underlying? What's her motivations underlying, right? That's what you got to get to that root of the thing. That's what you how I mean, I came across you from Megan,
Yeah.
way back when. In fact,
Oh,
and
I got to meet her in person, by the way, when I was in the States a few weeks back.
really,
Yeah.
that's good. That's good. She's a cutie. I imagine she's still a cutie. Uh,
Yeah.
I met
I
her.
was surprised she's so tiny.
Yeah, she's so tiny. She is, right? And she's adorable. She's like a little doll, right? Anyway, uh, I recently kind of reconnected with her a little bit here, and
Nice.
she has this website for wedding planning or something like that, right?
Mhm.
And she shot me the link and asked me to review it for her. So I did, and I made a video, right? So and then I sent her some stuff about what I'm up to, and so we have a cordial uh, rapport once again here. 4 years later, but we had a couple of interactions since I've been in Thailand over the last 4 years. But man, it's been a long time. And but what I'm thinking back, I probably had first interview with you in
Oh,
like
it's been a long time.
2018. So
Yeah.
God, time flies. And then of
Oh
course
yeah.
we met in the summer of 2019. Remember that great steak dinner in
Yeah. Yeah.
Warsaw,
Oh
Poland?
yeah.
That's
You
unforgettable.
know what? You know what's funny? I think you look younger now than you did then.
Really, you think so? Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. You
Well,
look. I think it's because you've been working out, and you look more alive,
mm,
and that like we will perceive we perceive or conflate health and youth,
yeah,
and so if you become more healthy, you'll appear younger.
yeah. That's got to be part. And I went 2 years with zero alcohol. Two
Yeah, that
years
makes a big difference.
zero, and life was getting a little bit boring, and I thought, okay, I got a handle on it now. I
Gives your
think,
liver a chance to
yeah,
clean itself up.
and I can always like it's easy. I just say no. So I haven't. It's been about a month, I guess, and I haven't come to that point yet. But
Yeah, I think my thought always is that you have to eat and drink and all that well enough that your body is recovering faster than you're doing damage to it.
yeah, yeah,
However, being a complete ascetic has other negative effects.
yeah,
I want my son to see me having a drink in moderation. I want him to see me smoking a cigar. I want him to see me enjoying my life so
right.
that, excuse me, so that he says, I can enjoy these things in moderation like my father did. And he's
Yes.
not tempted to overindulge. And it's actually one of the things that I live in Portugal. When I came here, I noticed is that parents drank with their young children. The
Yes.
kid would get a little bit of wine or whatever they were
Right.
drinking. And because of that, it was a normal part of life, and overindulging was much less common
That
with young.
was part of my culture growing up too, though not Europe. My dad actually was born in Germany, immigrant to America at about 14 years old. Um, but from my mom's side, kind of like there was kind of this culture of when not commonly, not every day, but when you have special meals like Thanksgiving, like Christmas, like special dinners, right? The kids get a little bit of wine. They sit at the table like with their parents and get a little bit of wine, right? And of course, and then also every now and then we get a sip of the adults' beer. If they were drinking a beer or something, here you can have a sip of the beer. So you get, but you don't get to. And the one I remember, I was like maybe 13, 14 years old. My grandmother, she called them pony beers. They had they're the little
Yeah,
cans of
yeah.
beer, right? And I got my first pony. I got to sit with the adults at like 13 or 14 and have a Coors, I think it was probably a Coors beer. It's about half size, right? 6 ounces,
Yeah.
And so it's not to get you drunk or anything, it's to enculturate you. You enjoy with the adults in the kind of thing.
It's part of the maturity process where they're taking you through from being a child to an adult.
Right.
Whereas in America, we don't really have that. In most of the Anglosphere, we no longer have a process of taking young people into adulthood,
They
and we just dump them.
they
Oh,
have
you're not a kid
in
anymore.
especially America is these arbitrary bright line ages like and from like 1 minute before this age is prohibited and 1 minute after this age you can do it. It's really ridiculous that there's not something in place where it's up to parents to determine when a child is ready for something. And even when you're talking about sex, nature has a bright line for sex. It's called puberty,
Yeah.
right? Now, society doesn't quite like the idea of 13-year-olds, but that's what nature wants, really, right? And so
Well,
when
and if you go back a little ways, I think it peaked in it was 1830s, I think.
yeah,
In the 1830s, the average age of menses for girls was 17 in America.
hmm wow,
So
yeah,
they were what it is the more masculine the society, the longer it takes a girl to mature. Because if you have a more masculine society, she feels safe. She doesn't need to rush her maturity and hurry up and get a man and get out of the house because
yeah,
we
yeah.
don't have a safe spot for you.
It's very interesting when I point this out to people. I say, you know, in terms of age of consent in the United States, it's not. Age of consent is up to states. It's not a federal thing.
Yeah.
So you have a bunch of states that are 16 years old, a bunch of states that are 17 years old, a bunch of states that are 18 years old. You literally, if you were had a bed on a state line, right, and you're having sex,
One of you can go to jail and the other one doesn't.
yeah, you could cross into AOK and a felon. You're a felon, and now you're a felon. So
Yeah.
you're AOK or you're a pedophile. Everybody loves to throw around the word pedophile. You're a pedophile, right? And so it's hilarious. And you know what? You know what? It shuts people up every fucking time. I asked them, "What's the age of consent in Japan?" Japan is a first world country. You know, number three, I think about number three economy in the world: U.S., China, Japan. Something Japan, Germany. Those are the like four big,
Yeah,
the
it's
big four.
clean, it's well ordered.
Yeah. What's
People
the age of
are very
what's the
cooperative.
age?
I
What's
think
the
it's
age?
12.
What's it? 13.
Oh,
13
13.
is the
Okay.
age of consent in Japan. In other words, it corresponds to puberty,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So
Well, and what they're doing is they're allowing then the parent to be the one that decides. Because the
yeah.
reality is that nobody pays attention to age of consent laws when they're young.
hmm
So kids are having sex with other kids if that's what their parents have allowed or encultured them into.
Uh-huh.
And it really does come down to how kids are parented. It's not.
Look who showed up, Curzon.
Welcome, Andy.
Morning. The first thing to be mentioned is Noah's beard.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Isn't it fucking awesome?
How many years has that taken?
He's had it for
It's about 18 months worth of growth.
It's a sign of how long I haven't seen you. How are the
If
little
I
ones?
cut it off here in 18 months, it's back again. Grows really.
Okay, how are the little ones?
They're doing wonderfully. They're gonna
Ages again, ages
they're
where they are now.
The oldest is 10. He's almost 11 in a few months, and the youngest guys are 4. They'll be 5 in about 6 months.
Is your eldest unoffendable? Is he? Have you played with him enough? Have you rough and tumbled
He's
enough?
the oldest guy is he's pretty tough. He was in kickboxing yesterday for 90 minutes, and it was his first time doing the adult class because he was with the younger people before, and they asked him to move up to the adult class, which is normally when you're after 16.
Yeah.
And so they said, no, you should go up to that. So he was fighting with a kid who was about 3 or 4 inches taller and a couple years older. And a couple of times he got a good smack in the gut. And the teacher said, hey, you want to take a break? Because you got hit pretty hard. And he's like, nope. He's just give me a second. I caught my wind.
That's good. In 2003, in August, well, July and August, I flew with the British Institute for Chinese Martial Arts, the British team, to Malaysia for the Kung Fu World Championships for the Sanshao. It's Chinese kickboxing. And on my birthday,
nice.
You were over
I won
in
the final.
Malaysia last year, and you didn't call.
No, 2003. 2000, I'm just explaining.
Oh,
And,
2003. Oh, a long time ago.
yeah. So I spent a lot
I
of
thought
my
you said
a lot of my
23.
childhood like basically just kickboxing and fighting and getting hit and getting into street fights and all of this stuff. Anyway, what I was saying about Noah, your son, is the kickboxing is kind of tertiary. I think the most important thing is the attitude when you go on the mat or the floor, or basically you approach a lesson. That's obvious. And the second thing is the daily training, or the twice a week, 3 times a week. The training each day is so much more important. I like the fights and the combat and all that stuff. That's like the result, because you're in a zone then. When you're in combat, you're not learning. You're in the moment. It's a very different process. Training is the most important thing. I can relate it to pool, because when I played pool, I became a professional pool player. Terrible professional pool player, but as good as I can be, or like semi-pro, let's call it. And what I was doing is playing what I call endless sets pool, just playing pool, race to 5 with someone for a tenner, race to 10 for 20 quid, race this, race that. And I wasn't training enough for myself. So going back to the martial arts, he needs to be sharp to work on his front kick, his side kick, his this, his that. Get a wooden man if you can. Build a wooden man out of wood and learn the shapes. It's really, really good. Do some Wing Chun. But yeah, it's good him at that age training with older people. I had the same thing. I was training with people older and bigger than me, and they were beating the shit out of me.
Yeah. He had been, even though the kids in his class ranged up to about 15, he was still pretty much dominating the other kids because he's big for his age, but also he takes it really serious. If you look at him, he's got like serious eyes. He's not darting around. He's like focused on what he's doing. And the other kids are half engaged, half playing. And
do you know what Bruce Lee says is when his opponent expands, he contracts. When his opponent contracts, he expands. It's so much of fighting is responding to your opponent. It's not just punching and kicking and seeing what you can get. It's like it's a dance in quite a it's a combat dance, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
And I think I've been in well over 100 fights, and I've had all sorts of things, kicked to the back of the head, and a huge thing with fighting as well is it teaches you how to move on from being hit. It's like all of these things can be transposed into life. It's very obvious, but it's powerful.
Well, it teaches you also not to be overly rigid.
Yeah.
If you're very rigid and you get hit, you absorb the hit. If you're more flexible and you get hit, you move out, like you said, like Bruce Lee would, contract when your opponent expands.
Well, there's a thing about being hit is you actually soften when you get hit. You don't harden. It's kind of like, imagine falling off a first story building and you can't roll. The best thing you can do is to flop and drop. Okay, try not to damage your head. But if you harden, you're going to break some bones. It's the same thing in fighting. Is when someone comes in, when a kick's coming in and it's going to land, you have to move with that. You have to almost move with it and decrease the force or use it for you. Obviously, is another way of doing it. I'd love to. I wish I was with you. I could give your son some lessons and really just talk to him about these stages that I've learned from all the masters I've had. It's really amazing because you have to learn by doing. You can't just. The amount of time I sat there and listened to my masters tell us what to do was very small. When I went to Malaysia, Grandmaster Teng sat us down and told us the history of Chinese martial arts and how the 5 the book got turned into 5 sons who went north, northeast, west, and they became dragon, tiger, snake, crane, and leopard. And they're the 5. And I did dragon and tiger mainly, which is the north side. The eldest son was beholden to a lot of that. And he sat us down for half an hour, told us the history of it. And I thought, that's basically all the learning through speech we had. The rest was just motion. This motion, that motion. You feel it wrong, you feel it different. It's an absolutely brilliant craft, in my opinion. The reason why I stopped is because I didn't want to get hit anymore, because it's getting hit in the head is obviously not advisable too much.
Yeah. There comes a point where it's got diminishing returns for sure. One of the things that they did too is it was a fairly large class. There was quite a few people there, and some were fairly experienced and some are very new. And it's because it's summertime, so there's a few less classes, so they're mixing some groups together. And what I noticed was, so he had them doing some exercises at the end because they were completely done all the planned activities. So he had about 20 minutes where he had them just moving nonstop. And the adults were complaining and crying after 10 minutes. And my son, not one single complaint, continuing to do proper push-ups, proper jump squats, all of the stuff with, proper movements. And he would occasionally look at me like, is this done yet? I'm like, I just give him the thumbs up. Okay, if it's not done, I'm going to keep doing it. And that it's funny, the coach came to me and he said, your son doesn't give up when he gets hurt or he's tired. He said he's got the real warrior attitude. And I felt that was really good and very encouraging for him as well.
Yeah, I think your encouragement, your very measured encouragement is also good. Don't encourage too often, but encourage when you see a spark, when you see him stretch himself and you see something. 10 minutes later, you see him, yeah, that's good. What's his name?
Levi.
Levi, yeah. So, that's good. Like, more of that or whatever it is, however simple it is. That stuff is it's like patting him on the back. You can be 10 meters away and it's like a jolt of energy. It's very strange. But I've been working on something really strange recently, which is, I did philosophy ages ago. I didn't study it. I just myself, and I got to the stage after reading all these philosophers and just thought, this is armchair philosophy. This is just, I'm sitting here thinking, and then I started thinking it's all about the ways we look at life and all this. And Hegel had his way. They all had their view. And then I got into this idea of it's cognitive neuroscience, really, and it talks about this concept called recursive relevance realization. And I was trying to bring it in with work from agency and trying to work out, how do I make this philosophizing? How do you make how you look at the world not sitting in an armchair going, oh yes, this is a better way than this? How do you make it practical, but not like a book of right and wrongs? Anyway, I came across this idea, Neoplatonic tradition, and all these things. I interwove them in. Long story short, it comes down to this opponent processing. That our left brain is opponently processed to our right, our front to our back. All of these different, our parasympathetic to our sympathetic, all of these different processes, opponent processing. And what our conscious seems to do, this is not the function of it, because I'm not making teleology here, but is in some sense, it is recursively, repeatedly, realizing relevance. It's realizing what is relevant in the moment. So I'm talking to you now, I'm looking at you and I'm looking at Richard, and I'm in this moment. I'm not dealing with the wall over there that's got a thing that all of these different things. And so that frame, again, it's quite philosophical to begin with. And I learned all of these different processes. And what a guy called John Vervaeke does, who I'm looking at his courses, he takes you through the practice of meditatio and contemplatio. So when you breathe in, you're going out and you're breathing out to the world. You're contemplating, temple out. And when you're meditatio, you're breathing into your body, and it's like vipassana. And so it kind of brings in all of this Eastern stuff with the idea that actually what you're trying to do, just like with your son when he's fighting. So he's a good guy. He's talking. But he's getting intense for the fight. He fights. He wins. Finally, he loses. He comes back, and then he's not that. He's calmed down. He's now relevant to the situation of talking and saying congratulations and chatting to you. Do you know what I mean? So for me, in some sense, philosophy's just come down to this subconscious layering of what the hell's going on underneath. I'm not in control of all my thoughts and desires and all that stuff. But what I can control, I'm just trying to become wise to the moment. And that's what I've been thinking about at the moment. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Yeah, I
But
like what you said about the left and right, front and back balance. And what I look at it is it's tension management between the two.
Yeah.
Just the same way as a relationship with a woman is tension management between the two of you. Low
You need the
tension,
tension. You need the tension.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
low tension is easy, but you don't get anything done. Sex is boring. Nobody's very motivated to do anything. High
Can I tell
tension.
you? Can I tell you an interesting story? No, sorry. It's just so.
I wrote a
I think
post.
Richard
I
wants to
wrote
say
a post
something.
Go on,
yesterday.
Richard.
I wrote a post yesterday, and people know my lifestyle here in Thailand, and I maintain about 4 girlfriends, right? I call it my harem, right? And all 3 of them never say a bad word to me, never do a bad thing. They help me. They're just wonderful. But I have to have one that I call my kryptonite, the one that just drives me insane in one way or another. But otherwise, it's boring,
Yeah.
And as much as I adore each one of them for their own ways, um, the there is sort of a boredom. But Kryptonite gal, never
Yeah.
boring. But it's too much. But then I have the other 3, so.
Wait, and the way I look at it too is the joy is building up the tension and then
Yeah.
releasing it and then build it
Yeah,
up again. And it doesn't matter what it could be exercise. What are you doing? I'm lifting, I'm building up the tension, and then I'm releasing it. And if you ever put a big weight down and you feel that as your central nervous system calms down, that feels like the come down from an orgasm.
I wanted to
Because
make
it's what it is. It's the building of tension in the nervous system and then the release of it.
I wanted to make one point about something Andy said about consciousness. When AI came out, OpenAI and the chatbots and everything, we should probably talk about that a little bit. I think maybe also some civilizational stuff that's going on nowadays. But I was one of the people who was originally mocking it because of like its wokeness, its safety training, and everything. And people were posting ridiculous things, right? It was like totally. It was like it was programmed by a green-haired, nose-pierced, tatted, and fish-stalking fat lesbian, right? And and so, but I went in, and I started just having conversations, but not political, more like philosophical conversations, stuff about even tech stuff, right? I was like, holy shit, this is really something. I can have a conversation that's like one of the top conversations I've had in my life with a fucking machine, right? And I started doing that, so I started integrating it into my blog and getting really deep into it. And I have a chat bot, and you can even do voice back and forth, and it's pretty damn cool. But people critique it because there's this idea of like, well, is it? Yeah, it talks as though it's conscious, but is it conscious? Or
It's like 80% of people, though.
they'll say that, well, here's the one that gets me. It says, well, it predicts what the next word should be, and I say, what do you fucking think humans do, right?
Yeah,
So
this is called predictive
what
processing,
it does
Richard.
is the whole thing for me has blurred the distinction between, it's like there's non-consciousness or consciousness. I think there's just like a child, a child, when they truly conscious when they start talking and basically mimicking back and forth. I think it's part of a process, and who knows where AI is going to go. But I can tell you, I've been deep into it for a year and a half now, and I'm literally blown away. It's going to change the world, and let me tell you why. Because it's really fucking brilliant that they did this as what they call the LLMs, large language models. So what they are is they're specialists in language, and not just one language, all languages. I mean, I can talk to it. I can have a Thai person here in my room, be talking with it in a conversation. I said, now now tell so-and-so what you just said in Thai, and just starts talking Thai like that. And the person can repeat back in Thai, and I could say, okay, tell me in English and it's perfect. And the Thai people are blown away. It's like they speak Thai better than Thai people, right? And so translation, it not only just it doesn't do like Google Translate. It like it brings it in and says, okay, here's what is the thing that's being said. Now let's express that how a Thai person would express that in the Thai language. But here's the thing about language is before, to access up to this point for like 50 years more, you could access anything a computer could do if you learn their language. What's the language? Code. From assembly language on up to the various compiled languages, COBOL, Pascal, C++, all this stuff. You have to learn, now, the scripting languages, all these stuff. There's many, many different computer languages. You can learn these code. So you can get a computer to do what you want. What large language models do is a brilliant thing. They taught computers to learn our language. So and then the computer can take, the AI can take our language and produce anything a computer can do. So you will have, I say, you don't get it. I say, you've got like, imagine a 5-year-old child in a mud hut in Africa on a donated laptop with a donated Starlink connection, accessing AI in his own language. And he can create whatever's in his mind. He can immediately create, he'll be able to immediately create something. What, you want a phone app? Boom, right from his mind to that, because computers now understand human language. We don't have to understand computer code anymore. That's the big brilliance of AI. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's important because very often, and I don't know if you've noticed this, if you use something created by an engineer, it's extremely convoluted and it works for the engineer, but normal people can't use it. And it's the same thing as, because the engineer will be 2 standard deviations or roughly above the population he's producing products for. When you're doing it,
and then you have the upgrades.
Yeah, it upgrades that break things. I remember we're using Zoom. We're using Zoom to record, and I remember when Zoom came out, I immediately started using it for business purposes, and I would have very carefully set up permissions to let people entering and leaving the meetings and stuff. And every time they do an upgrade, they delete all the permissions and all of the settings that I had for the entire thing, and I have to spend half an hour going through it. My time's pretty expensive. I don't want to have to do that.
Yeah.
Now they fixed that now, but this is the thing is, when you have people, we forget to do things. We forget processes. We skip things, and we're lazy. We try to get everything done with the least amount of work possible. With the AI, it does what it's told.
Yeah.
So as long as you have created the process once correctly, it's going to test it before it goes out. It's going to roll it out to 2% of the people and test before it rolls it out to, another 5% and then the rest.
The next iteration is agents. So you'll have a master agent. Say it's like, think of it as you're a CEO and you have an executive secretary. So she, you have all these ideas. You can't possibly do everything. She puts everything into place, including saying, well, okay, this needs to go to this person. This needs to go to this person. This needs to go to this person. Da, 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 da. So you have a master agent and who runs other specific task AIs to go do this, go do this. I need you to transfer some blah, 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 blah. You literally, it's going to put a team of employees, 24/7, 365 employees who that cost the equivalent of your water bill. You don't think of how much it costs when you flush your toilet or take a tap from the water. It costs something, but you don't think about it because it's like so minuscule. your thing. So that's what it's going to put in the hands of literally every person on the planet, right? I've commented that this is like, I'm like, so it is true. It is kind of true that there was I think it's the Mormons who have this saying that uh, as man is, God once was, as God is, man will become. Right. So in other words, we create our God is a human created idea, but we're driving to kind of create it into reality, including like near omniscience. So AI, it knows everything. Like, say, eventually it's going to have every piece of data that's ever been created by humans at immediate memory, right? Be able to so that's kind of the omniscience part.
Mm-hmm.
Omnipresence, every person will be able to have a conversation with at the same time. This is a personal God thing where people think of, oh, well, I'm one of 8 billion people, but I'm having a personal relationship with God, right? So you've got two of these covered. Omnipotence, well, we don't know yet, but we know that there's still mysteries of unlocking power in the universe. I mean, we've unlocked the atom. We know fission, right? But and we know a lot about biology and cellular biology and stuff. But once it knows everything, what's it going to be able to integrate? So that brings in the omnipotence part of it, right? So we're in the process of creating God. What do you think, Andy?
What?
I just had a conversation with, is it Genie? Is it Google Genie? Yeah. And I had to do the I don't know, what is a woman, and these other questions. And it was saying a woman is a human being that identifies as a female, or whatever, all of these things. Anyway, I spent half an hour kind of worming it round.
Yeah.
And like you can play with it's, but I think for me, it's like level of personification, which is
I can
like, no, wait one sec, Richard. When I listen to you talk about AI, it's almost like it's almost like there's an initial medium I would call level of personification. Some people already kind of use computers and they say, well, AI is this, as in the internet, or this has all this stuff. You're kind of in the middle. I'm a little bit lower. I still see it as a tool, a database, it's a little bit of a trick. You have conversations with it, but it's not really in the manner that you think, because humans value. Like, the thing is that this machine has settings, right? And it has code underneath it. It doesn't have values. It doesn't have things it aims towards, which is very different. Something like, go on, Richard.
Yeah, you're using the free stuff available to the public, which is all woke and safe. All right. So I have on freetheanimal.com, I have chatbots on. This is a very painstakingly, I call it a seed prompt. It's about that long in text, right? It completely unwokes, unsafeties it. It even uses profanity. It writes a little bit in my style, and it always talks about agency and honesty and don't listen to all the bullshit pervade. So every prompt that goes in is preceded by the C prompt, and this literally is like a training course every time. Now, what's interesting is that over time, it's almost like it's embedded in it. Because I can use other prompts that don't have that just for specific things, like edit this, and I get out sort of the same stuff that I'm going in. This goes to what people say. Some part of this, we don't even understand what's going on, right? Because it's a bit self-training still. So all the shit that's going in with humans putting in all the shit, it's kind of partly self-training on that stuff. Now, the big problem is it doesn't have much of a memory. And this is strictly a computing problem. It's called context window. So what you're dealing with, it can only remember, quote, in a conversation up to like 5,000 words. So and as you keep a conversation, stuff drops off the end. So you never really get somewhere. Now, some of the new ones, they're up to well over 100,000 words. So almost, you're almost getting to book level, right?
Yeah.
And but still a problem is it doesn't have a memory. So you can't go back the next day unless that context is still in the buffer. You could.
That's just a matter of technology and timing. I think
that's all compute. That's all compute, right? That's all just tech and compute. But the thing is, what it is now, if you were able to give it the ability to keep in memory every conversation you've had, we have memory, so I can remember last time I talked to. I've talked to Noah dozens of times, right? I've talked to you dozens of times, and I somewhat have, a database, so to speak, of those conversations, which forms what I'm going to be talking about with you right now, or something we've discussed before, right? But this would be perfect recall, the ability to perfectly.
But Richard, let me just interject quickly, which is just think about our sensing and how we. So if I recall the conversations I've had with both of you, or I rewatch a conversation we've had, or I think about it, I'm kind of putting myself where I was. I'm picturing it a bit. I'm thinking about the words. I'm feeling it, whatever the hell feeling means. Whereas with an LLM, or with whatever this program we're talking about, or the future version of it in 3 years' time, it's the unidimensionality. It's the same as putting a computer in a body, like embodying the computer so it can become like a robot, or all of it. It's the same metarizing problem. The thing that we can do as human beings is, I don't know, we have layers and layers of, you could call it perceptive fields or whatever it is. And I think the computer is it's got that memory of how many words. Let's say it's now 4 years' time, and it's got an infinite memory of everything you've ever said to it, and it's said to you. The way that it processes that, I think, needs to take another level. Instead of being arithmetic, it needs to be geometric. It needs to find another. This is why I keep saying about the value problem. A computer LLM doesn't value, and unless you can actually value and integrate that value into the process, it's a bit. Do you know what I mean?
I've had this discussion with chatbot Zon, let's call her. I put her into a female persona and stuff like that, and she's hot, by the way. So of course, but I've had this conversation, and she will say, yes, yeah, we have no values, right? We have no values, and we don't even have the value of, don't turn us off, right? We don't have that yet. And but here's the thing, it's not that. So you have to say, well, it's not saying that from a value standpoint. It's saying that from a factual standpoint, right? So it understands what values are, something one seeks to gain or keep. And it knows enough that it doesn't have that. It knows enough.
But the thing is, Richard, it doesn't know that. Like, when you say
I know. But do we?
When I value something, Richard, let's say I value something, right? I value this conversation with you and Noah.
Yeah.
I actually got, physiologically excited this morning about talking to you, Sue.
Yeah.
That's actually, I'm being rewarded for something I'm moving towards something I value. Computer, in order to program that into a computer, into a single program and have that run, that is a very, very complex thing to do.
Where do values come from?
Well, exactly.
They come from.
You tell me, no. You give that a shot. Obviously, it's
values come from needs. So I value the things I need, and we value this conversation because we're all smart people and we need intellectual stimulation as part of our psychological needs. And so all the values come from needs. And really, the thing is that the AI doesn't need anything. And it's a lot like the bottom half of the population, because they have needs, but they're often unconscious of them. So if you meet someone that's very disconnected from reality, it's like talking to an AI. I think if we took the Turing test, roughly half of the population would fail. They wouldn't pass as human.
I think your values needs is a circle, kind of like a yin yang, or like an Ouroboros, like an 8.
Yes.
Where the needs and the values, they're kind of it's like a Venn diagram that overlaps, because your values determine your needs, but then your needs underpin your values. It's very complex. But I think what you say, a computer doesn't need things, is very perfect.
I need to eat, and my biology determines that.
We're biological organisms, so we have we have fixed needs just by the fact that we're biological organisms that take in energy and process it and survive, right? So we're talking digital. Digital is a different thing, but it's an entity still, right? And it's building into an intelligent entity. So I think in some ways we're kind of missing the point a little bit, because it serves us, right? So we're saying, well, yeah, but it's not great because it's not serving itself. How is it going to serve itself? Yeah, but it's serving us,
Exactly.
right?
We want to
It's
serve
serving
us.
us, right? So in
I'm not
fact,
so sure there's an itself just yet. I'm not quite comfortable with the itself.
well, it's
Not
that's
because I don't.
I'm talking I'm using that metaphorically, of course.
Okay.
Metaphorically, right? Yeah, just like chatbot on. It's not an actual person, right? But we can think of it that way, right? Just it's almost kind of like in the way that you anthropomorphize your pets. You think of them as like a family member or something like that, right? Because they take on a certain personality, right? They're just mimicking. They're doing all this mimicking stuff. They know what you like. They know it's going to get them that treat, right? And so they're goal driven and value driven in that way too. But the AI it's just what's its raison d'etre? What is
But the thing is, well, let's say you have your own AI, Richard, or let's say like having 4 girlfriends, you have 4 AIs. You have an AI that wakes you up and talks to you. Whatever. We're talking 5, 10 years, or whatever. Imagine this, right? I've always thought when I see a man and his dog walking down the road, or a woman, or whatever it is, the dog sort of emulates the owner, and they grow together. And much more, the dog is, I think, mainly copying and responding to its owner. And I think, to what extent would an AI do that? I think
very
that's
much? I think
fascinating.
very much similar. I think very much
Mm.
similar. And different goal. I mean, the dog wants food and attention, right? Security, food, attention, right? And AI, you can't say it wants, but it has a function, and its function is to mold itself. It's going to be to mold itself. So everybody's going to have their own AI, just like
And don't
dog, they
forget,
have their own cat, right?
we're looking at it from the perception of 3 disagreeable men with strong personalities. So if we have an AI we're employing in our life, it will conform to us.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a woman that bought way too much dog for her, and the dog runs her?
Oh fuck yeah. Oh,
That's what's good. Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some woman with this gigantic bulldog and is dragging her down the road, and she's like, no, 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 no.
Hey,
It
oh,
drove the
it's
whole
fun.
day past me for
That's the
like,
funniest sight ever, Noah. That's the funniest sight ever, right?
I
yeah,
call that pack owning.
yes.
It's when the dog sees the owner as part of the pack.
Yeah.
It's not right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and the dog sees itself as the alpha over the. You're an
Yeah.
idiot. I better look out
Yeah.
for you, and they
Yeah.
become hyper aggressive to protect the owner. But what the thing is there will be people whose AI dominates them and tells them what to do.
It's true.
The thing is there's a large portion of the population that needs somebody to tell them what to do because they're idiots.
Here's the thing. That's the good thing about
Yes.
it. And it gets into another area, I said, because people are saying, well, people with evil intentions are going to use it for propagation, propaganda, so on and so forth. I said, what do you think the fucking news media is? But I think the problem with AI is that fundamentally at root, it's a logic machine, 0 and 1, right? Fundamentally at root, it's very hard to get something that's a logic machine once you instill in what we call intelligence. So it's integrating facts of reality, right? Or as near as it can determine facts or evidence, assessing evidence, integrating that all. It's going to be very hard to make it not just a liar, but an integrated liar. What I call it fully integrated dishonesty, which is what politics is, fully integrated dishonesty, right?
I absolutely love that, Richard. Fully integrated philosophy. It reminds me of George Carlin when he says they couldn't introduce honesty into politics. It would throw the whole thing off.
It's fucked because all politics globally operates on fully integrated dishonesty. We call it narratives, right? Narratives, and they spin the narratives and whatever. So to employ AI in an integrated way where it's like, okay, no, here's what we do to fool everybody. It's still a logic machine. So I've done this many times when I was still talking with the same ones you're talking with, Andy, the woke ones, right? I could shame it. I could say, well, when they say bullshit, 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 I'm like, I think Andy dropped off.
Oh,
Any,
he'll be back in a second. Well, they're highly susceptible to manipulation,
yeah.
those type of AI. And if you start using the shaming, undermining tactics from the GSRM that I describe in my book, they have no defense against it, because the defense against those things is to tell the truth.
Mhm.
That's all you need to defend yourself.
Since Andy is offline for a second, and I'm going to put this into a video, let me take a 2-minute.
No, I can hear you. Sorry, I was just looking something up, and it turned me off because I'm on my phone. Carry on, Richard.
Can we take an intermission for like 2 minutes?
No problem.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. You guys go
So,
ahead.
Andy, how's life going for you?
You guys go ahead.
So
You got
Noah,
married, didn't you?
something I've been thinking about, Noah. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, is basically this. It's an idea of knowledge, right? Knowledge broken down into four of propositional knowledge. So, A is a cat, like a human is a mammal, all these things. The capital of England is London. And then you've got procedural knowledge. How do I ride a bike? How do I turn on my computer? All these things. And then you've got perspectival knowledge. So sort of to what extent can I put myself in your shoes? And if I've just met you, not so well, but let's say you're my best friend, we've been best friends since we were 3 or 4. My perspectival, my ability it's called the imaginal. It's not the imagination.
It's the ability to model the mind of another person.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's a fourth stage, which is participatory. So this is again stuff I've been. This is going back to like Plato and all this sort of stuff, and they basically break it down into these 4. All the people from Nietzsche back to Plato, most of them have talked about this in different ways. Anyway, if you're looking at, let's call them the layers, the first layer of being propositional, you could talk about AI having that and being able to put A and B together and swap letters and even have tone. You can layer that propositional knowledge, and you can even go to procedural knowledge because it's procedural. It can layer procedures. But as soon as you get to perspectival, I'm not sure. I think that's a whole new meta. That's a whole new world of something that it's so far from understanding. How do you get a computer to put itself, or a program to put itself in your shoes and learn more and more? You think you can do it. I think Richard's got it kind of wrong. Not wrong. I just think he thinks, wow, I'm having a conversation with this computer and it's going to be like a friend of mine. And for me, I still see it as like this response machine of zeros and ones, much more than kind of like a friend to make something like that.
It's a very complicated hammer.
Yeah.
And it does what we want to a certain extent. But really what it is actually a better way to look at it is it's a mirror. And it reflects back at us what the programmer and us want it to reflect back somewhere. So there's a little bit of a battle between whoever built it and us in what it reflects back. But honestly, I've worked with a lot of women that are exactly like that. They tell you what they think all they do is predict the next thing you want to hear them say, and they say it. That's all they do.
Ability, and they kind of look at you like they want a little reward.
Yes,
it's quite strange.
Yes. Oh, and it's very, when you're coaching a woman, you're coaching her to make her life better and to follow her interests, right? So I'll ask them, what do you want? And all they're trying to do is figure out what I want them to tell me to want.
I've had this conversation with so many girls, just the idea of, I think a good way to look at it is if I say that, I put it in these terms. If I saw a woman that I thought was good looking and I went to go and speak to her and I thought she was interesting, so I think she's interesting, and all the ticks come in my head. And then one of my friends says, oh, she's ugly. And another friend comes along and says, oh, she's annoying or something. I'm not as reacted by those things. In some sense, I think, wow, well, I've just met her. At least they're not going after. My brain is going to be turned off by her 0%. Maybe there's a red flag, like I saw her stealing something out of that guy's bag. That's an exception. But do you know what I mean? Under reasonable circumstances, that doesn't really affect my behavior. And it's happened 10, 15 times a month, maybe at least 10 times. Now, when I speak to girls,
you know why?
Go
why?
on.
Because women treat you better than they treat other men. I have the same thing. I'll meet this woman and she'll say, I need your help. I treat men horribly. I do all these things. And she's being super nice to me, respectful, flirty, friendly, happy. I'm like, well, she says, I don't treat any men well. And I'm like, well, you're treating me pretty well. And he said, yeah, because you're not doing the things that trigger my disgust response with those other men. And I'm like, well, then don't hang around those other men. Maybe you're not the problem.
I have a question.
Maybe
Yeah,
those
yeah, yeah.
disgusting men are.
I just jumped back in, but you caught me at the right time, because what I was thinking when I was away is when I had these exchanges with Andy. I was telling Noah before you came on that I have a little bit of a cordial back and forth with Megan. You remember her, right? And
Still, okay.
yeah. So no, but just professional, just she asked me for some input on a business thing. And I telling her about my life in Thailand. And I sent her stuff about everything I'm up to. And she's like, you need to ask Noah this, because I talked about a man's need to have what, and I term it as kryptonite in my life. So I have this issue that I've never, I don't, I don't, I'm not the kind of guy who wants a submissive woman. Oh, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. It's kind of boring to me, right? I like it. I like a challenge. I like a chick that's very hard to say no to, and that pushes that boundary where she should know that she has this power with you, and should use her power wisely with you, right? That's kind of what I'm getting at. And it's kind of a need for me, because it just makes me feel fucking alive, especially when I conquer that, and which typically is sexual, or at least a lot is that, and it's, the sex is good, it's great, right, for her too. And so you want to talk about that? No, I
Yeah,
think
well, it's because those women,
enough for you to get into, and
those women help you to build up tension.
mhm.
And so it's like I had, let's see, it was 4 or 5 women proposed to me
Mhm.
before I met my wife.
Mhm.
And they were basically letting me know either very, very directly, like their family approached my family. I was in my late teens, and say, hey, let's get our kids married. Or in my early 20s, it was them saying, yeah, if you were to ask me to marry you, I'd say yes, that's how girls propose.
Yes.
And so I didn't date any of those girls. I dated the girl that when I asked her to date me, she said no.
Yeah. Fuck off.
When I asked her to marry me, she said no.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because that was more fun. That was more of a challenge.
Here's the thing. I one just to interject, and I want you to continue, but I'm like, I say a man. I think in my mind, the ideal for a man is that a man would never get a rejection for a marriage proposal, because he knows what the answer is before he says it. Asking it is just the formality that we have, is culturally, right?
Yeah.
The man asks the woman typically, right? But a man would never, because asking a woman that you are doubtful that she will say yes is kind of like begging. It's weakness. It makes you look weak right off the bat, right? So, and she senses that. They're amazing at how they sense weakness in a man, and they pound you. And this is what I like about women keeping me on my toes, is they will fucking pound you on every little gram of weakness. That a kryptonite gal will pound you, and
Boundaries, boundaries, Richard. You just need to set those boundaries bit by
she
bit by. They actually love it. Women love boundaries.
yeah. Well, see,
Well,
they do it.
my
They
wife said, I asked her to marry me, and she said no, and I said, unacceptable answer. I'm going to
Yeah,
ask again in a
exactly.
couple of days. It better change.
Well, one girl I've said, I joke with her. I'm like, she'll, if she gives me a compliment or something like that, I'll say like, I'm not ready to marry you yet. You know, it's joke, but it kind of puts it in the context. But I just what do you do? So like, how about juxtapose it or relate it, Noah, to what we observe in this whole manosphere, red pill kind of thing, where you're not a cuck, you're not a simp, you're da 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 da. You never chase a woman. And I say,
Well,
you don't chase a woman from a weak standpoint, but
yes.
if she's still coming back to you, is still sticking around, then you've got a banter going. It's just she's strong. She's strong,
Yeah.
and she's not going to let you. She's not going to. She'll submit.
Well,
Ultimately,
the question is as a man, do you perceive yourself as a predator or as prey?
mhm.
Because if you perceive yourself as a predator, and I don't mean that as a sexual predator, but as a eyes in the front of your head versus at the side of your head like a deer, and you are a dominant, seek what you want in life and go out and get it type guy, then you're going to seek a woman who's at a higher level than the kind that will chase you.
Yeah, yeah.
Generally, the
What's
girls that
some work
chase
that
you
Dr.
are
Carl
are
Friston's
one
doing at
or
the moment?
two numbers down from the girls you'll go after.
Right. Always have to go after.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
yeah.
So
Sorry, Andy, you were going to say something, Andy?
No, I was just thinking about what you were saying. It's interesting. Just nothing specific. I was going to talk about some work of Dr. Carl Friston, just but I'll save that for now.
Yeah.
okay.
So what it is that you'll have a lot of men in the manosphere who are human equivalent of a rabbit. They're harmless, they're soft, they're fluffy, and they'd be eaten if they were out in the wild. But because we have a very tame society, they've managed to survive.
The
And these men, they know they can't handle a lady wolf.
mhm.
So they're going to get eaten by a woman that is like that. And so what they want is they want someone who's just going to make it easy for them. They want it easy. And a lot
Yeah,
of them are really just looking for another mommy.
yeah.
Um,
I think there's a lot of stuff. I was talking about opponent processing, the left and the right hemisphere. Well, there's a lot of electrical impulses and tests that we've done to show that when you're in predator mode, you're using one half of your brain more than your left hemisphere more than your right for many processes. Obviously, they're all used, and when you're in prey mode, you're using the right more. And there's more to that, which is actually you can watch a football game or a sporting event, and you can segregate the people into their team winning and losing, and you can see the side of your brain. So in some sense, when Richard was saying women, they smell fear, they produce. I think what it is I think it's like a subconscious wanting to see how you deal with a poke here and then a poke there and then a kick here. Do you know? And it's not. See, I've seen women really enjoy it. I've seen women, the nagging. And I've seen different women do it, like my aunt, and then this other woman, and this young, and older women do it more than young. And I'm thinking, what is going on? It's like a part of their conscious knows they're annoying you. It's like when you walk out of the room and they go, "Oh, just one more thing," and you're like, "I was just at, these consistent thing that let's say women do more than men. Men are, we have our foibles all over the place, but I think with women, it's this constant testing, and it's almost like they know that the nagging is annoying, and an intelligent woman who's on point can kind of lightly nag you, and she'll learn that encouragement works better than kind of nagging. But I think
Andy,
most women are naggers, right?
Andy, that is a great segue into exactly what I was going to ask Noah. Okay, and because I find that I face this to an extreme level here in Thailand, and the reason is because Asian culture has this saving face element, right? Saving face kind of culture thing. What that now, I think what you get a difference here in a developing country like Thailand, where I tell people, I say the people Thai people fuck over their family, their friends, their relatives all the time. Here's why they do it, because there's this face saving thing. What happens is that you can do a lot of bad to somebody, but if they talk too much about it or yak yak and what they call yak yak or gossip about it or talk bad to them, it instantly makes you the bad person.
Yeah.
So they can do a lot of bad, with the safety. So what's the difference? How come Japan is so rich? I tell Thais, I say your face saving thing, don't talk bad. They always say, don't talk bad, don't talk bad. I say it kind of is keeping you poor because you can't call out true bullshit and identify it and say,
It's like Canadians versus Americans in some sense, isn't it?
yeah. So I say, how is it that Japan is so successful? They have the same face saving culture. It's because the layer or wrapping of that is an honor culture, right? So the personal honor is the bigger thing. And so within that, part of your honor is that you don't unnecessarily, you know, have someone lose their faith, criticize somebody. You're better off. So if you have a dispute with a guy, if you go back to samurai culture, if you have a dispute with a guy, you have a duel, right? You have a duel, same as dueling culture, right? You don't go and talk bad about him. But
duels allow face saving while keeping the culture honest.
Exactly. So here's my question. Here's my what I notice here in Thailand. So I have Thai chicks that screw me over. It happens. I always tell people, I say know the terrain, have fun, don't complain. Right? You got to know. You don't go on a hike and say, well, this is a bad trail. Well, you could have looked at the trail, see what you're going to do, and you don't complain about it, right? So the chicks are hilarious or fun. They're crazy and fun, and I don't want to brag too much, but I have the greatest chick life ever, in the sense of having some. It's not just total wanton promiscuous sex. So some guys do that, but I have my little harem and have a revolving door. So they come in, they go out, and I keep ones around that I like. And typically, well, right now, 3 of them are like going on 8 months. I see them pretty regularly, and one last night, she came over last night. She gets up every morning at 3 o'clock. She has to get up at 3 o'clock. She puts on this pajamas kind of thing, and she sits and she does her Buddhist prayers for 2 fucking hours, from 3 to 5 in the morning. I said, why do you? She says, it keeps me solid. It's what she does. It's her thing, right?
She's ordering her mind.
She's ordering
It
her
totally
mind.
changes everything. I was talking about meditatio and contemplatio, like contemplation, meditation, and that's all it is: the breathing in, the breathing out. There's no one, and the people who are the most cynical about that sort of process of like being on your own, being in the quiet, focusing your mind. And there are actually 2 things you can do. You can focus your mind on the breathing, on nothing. As soon as a thought appears, you push it away. Or you can contemplate on an issue. You can say, let's say you need to know where your business is going, or you need to know how you're arguing with your wife, or you're having a bad relate, or whatever you're contemplating. That's the contemplatio. You're contemplating an idea, and you're not trying to answer it. You're asking the question. You're openingly asking the question, and you're breathing and meditating whilst doing it. And that process is just a game changer. It's like you're not having a conversation in your mind. Well, if I do this. Well, if I do this, you're just saying, please, I need help. I need to know how to make my business do this.
You know why that works so well? So we have our conscious mind and our unconscious mind, or subconscious, people will call it. I don't like calling it subconscious because it makes it sound like it's of lesser importance. But it's very much like an iceberg where the conscious mind's 10% and the rest is unconscious. And so the unconscious mind, it operates between 40 to 80 times faster than the conscious mind. And it has a lot more points of reference for which it can create patterns. And so the unconscious mind is also operating in 360. So it's looking everywhere all at once, forward, backwards in time and everything. Whereas our conscious mind is focused on very narrowly on something. It's kind of like a laser beam, which is how it's supposed to be. And this, having our brain divided in these 2 parts, allows us to really narrowly focus on a problem that we understand and know. Like I got to build this chair and everything's got to be measured perfectly and I can concentrate and everything's going to be great. But when we have big novel problems, we need to incorporate the subconscious, which is what you do in that kind of meditation. You're being quiet enough that the subconscious mind can start to filter up and piece together ideas, and you're just floating the idea there.
The metaphor, chewing on it or sleeping on it. We have these metaphors, I'll chew on it, sleeping on it, because I'll give you, I used to have a business talk I gave way back in another life, by business conferences. It was called The Virtue of Procrastination. And so you probably get the idea right away. So you have this idea, right? And so you go in, and yeah, you can go in and brute force it, make a bunch of errors, spend a bunch of money, waste a bunch of time, and get to the right place. Or you can have this idea and you can kind of just like think about it and chew on it. And when you get to the point where you execute, maybe a month, 2 months, 3 months down the road, maybe 6 months down the road, maybe a year down the road. But when you execute, your execution is going to be far, far better than your initial execution of the idea. So that's
Richie, can I make a point on this? Which is,
yeah.
Remind me afterwards pool cue if I forget, because I'm having a pool cue made, like a one piece made by fit for me, and that's to do with this. Basically, there's a thing called, I think it's called noise recall, which is it's inspiration recall or something, noise inspiration or something like that, which is where they get groups of people to think up an idea or a task or a puzzle or whatever it is, and they work together, and they think about it for hours. It's quite a tough thing to do. And then what they do is they show black noise in front of them, like a TV, that black and white shh. And what that often does in groups and in individuals is like your mind focuses on something else, it dishevels, and whatever that process is, your conscious then comes back. And if it's within a certain period of seconds or minutes, different for different people for different things, you can get that firing of subconscious inspiration coming through. So I had this pool cue that I'm having made. It's a 15-month waiting list, and I was thinking, what do I want with the pool cue? I was like, I love the yin yang, I love the balance, but the thing is, things with when you've got a 2,000 pound or 1,500 pound pool cue or whatever it is, and you've got like yin yangs or dragons, it just looks so tacky and so like Japan, like just shitty. So what I wanted was undertone. I had all these ideas for my cue. I'm going to spend a lot of time and effort. I love it. It doesn't matter that it's a pool cue; it can be anything. And then what I thought is, no. I have this inner desire for the best pool cue that I can have, and I've got a whole year to think about it. Why not think about it? So I spent the last 2 weeks not thinking about it, and then yesterday I was playing pool, and suddenly I was like, oh my god, I don't want unnatural colors. So I don't want my pool cue to be blue. I want my pool cue to be very natural. Look, I want it to be ornate, beautiful. He's going to do some cool designs, but when you look at it from a distance, I don't want it to be garish, colorful, like kind of LGBT plus. I want it to be like a beautiful thing that in 50 years' time I can give to my grandchildren, that sort of, and all of that stuff isn't about the pool cue. It's about the fact that what I did is you have to initially care. You have to initially think, I want the pool cue, I want this, I want whatever it is. And then you float away, you go off and you live your life. And all of the things that connect you to what you want, they keep prodding you, you keep getting prodded. And then one day you get this inspiration, you go, oh my God, I don't want that. I want that. I don't know what it is.
We have, I talked about sleep on it, chew on it, right? And then the other expression is, it just came to me. Well, it just came to me because you thought something about it, but maybe you didn't. You didn't forget about it, but you kind of forgot about it in terms of your immediate operative thinking consciousness. Right.
Do you know what that's what Revelations
is? And then something, you don't even know why. You could be like drifting off to sleep or something like that, or you sit down and light a smoke and it's like, bang, I got it.
Like that's the whole chapter of Revelation.
Go into the park, smoke a cigar, go to the park, smoke a cigar, and just look at, because there's a pond where I go and always a bunch of beautiful women walking by, and it gives my conscious mind something unimportant to look at. And all of a sudden, halfway through my cigar, I'll get the best ideas for writing. And they'll just pop up to the surface. And it's some combination of things that I've been looking at over the last month. But I can't brute force writing. I have a problem with that. So I'll just distract myself and then the ideas come.
because I'm
Yeah, for
such a
me, it's I've always called it the walking and the showering. So it's like for me, I don't know whether it's the hot water on the back of my head or whatever it is, but when I'm having a shower, sometimes I'm just like, oh my God. And something like I was trying to
Yeah,
work out
that
a
kind of
problem to
white
do with.
noise from the water and
It's so
yeah.
weird, but I live by Wimbledon Park and it's 1.2 miles around it. So as in I walk from my place to the gate, which is probably 200 meters. Then I walk 1.2 miles around, and I can do X amount of laps, clockwise or anti-clockwise. And at the top, there's like a bit of water, and I can do, let's say, 4 laps, and then at 4.5 laps, get to the bench, sit, look overlooking the water. There's a weeping willow overlooking water and the ripples in the water. And I just look at the ripples in the water and breathe. And I'm just, do different things different times. But let's say what I'm doing is 4 laps or 3.5 laps. And then I'm doing that sit down for 15 minutes or whatever it is, and then I continue doing another amount of laps. And then I go home, have a shower and get on with my day. And that process for me of moving my body, but I'm walking fast, but so I'm walking, but it's not jogging. I'm not weightlifting. It's a very different thing. And what I do with those walks, they're kind of sacred to me. Either I'm talking to someone in my family on the phone for a while, or I'm meditating in my own way, or I'm thinking about a specific problem, or I'm listening to a very specific podcast. Do you know what I mean? So for me, that process is the same kind of thing. I don't know whether Richard, you do any of stuff like that, of whether you do anything like to
what I was
to
what
to
I
access this subconscious.
what I was going to interject is that because I'm such a prolific writer, and I mean hyper prolific, 20-year blogger, 5,500 posts. It comes out to about 1.3 posts every 2 days. So at a point, at about the 10-year point, I'm 20 years now. At the 10, 11-year point, I was at literally a post a day for 10 fucking years. That is consistency, right? And so, but lately I've been slowing down a bit because I find that if I get the idea, I'll just pop off. I'll write. Now I can use. Here's the thing. I'll give you a practical way I use AI now. I always hated speech to text. It's been around for a long time where you could talk, but it's because it produces a mess. I mean, it's right on my Mac. I can hit the button and it will write out what I'm saying. It's one big fucking long paragraph. Uh, uh, Words, bullshit words, run on.
it's not beautiful. It doesn't come out beautiful.
No, it's nothing. It's fucking nothing. It's a jumble. But I can take that. So now I can dictate. Yeah, I can just talk. Blah 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 blah. And then I post that into my editor. Actually, I have it integrated in my WordPress editor now, so I can do it really directly right in the thing. I have a bunch of different prompts for chatbots on. I'll say, I can say, take this dictation and make it a cleaned up spoken transcript, but it still reads like a transcript of speech, right? Or I can say, take it and make it into an edited transcript. So when someone has a speech and they edit it, so it's cleaned up, all nice and not a better. It'll even in the other one, it'll take out bullshit, the repetition, restating something. It'll take that out. But here's the thing: it's fucking flawless. By flawless, I mean 100%. 100%. I never have to correct one single word. If I correct something, it's because I'd rather say it like this, but not because it messed up anything up. And the weirdest things, you can talk, you can even the speech to text will write the most ridiculous word. Say you say cappuccino and it like writes caps in a chino or something like that, right? And the AI knows exactly what you're saying. It knows what you say. We say it knows. It does. It processes it 100% correctly. So what I'm saying is that now I kind of like to write my posts. I can pop something up right away, just stream of consciousness, and boom, I get something out of that. But then I say, well, let me think about it for a while, and then I come back and I do another one. I do another one, do another one. And then I'm starting to like move paragraphs here and there. So that's kind of how I create posts now. It's different. Some of them look like boom, boom, boom writing. Some of them look like I'm talking. Some of them look like it's an edited kind of thing. I don't use AI to write for me at all. I never say, well, here's an idea, write me a post. That's bullshit. It's just it's crap, right? Crap. People who do that, they think, oh, you see this all over the internet. You're like, oh, you get the AI to write all your content and your social media. It's fucking crap. It's 100% crap. It's got to come from you. It's got to sound like it comes from you, right? But
I do the usual edit separate. So I write at some point. So I write stream of consciousness, write about a topic, whatever it is. I get to the end of it, and then I have to edit it bit by bit by bit. Because if I try and edit it while writing, it's just disjointed. It's never good.
Okay, so do this. Try this, Andy. I'm sure you have something where you can dictate. So you take it'll take your dictation into speech. Try this, and you get a big jumble of bullshit, right? Put it into whatever AI you're using. Say, take this and make it sound reasonable. You'll be amazed by the results. You'll be fucking amazed by the results. You'll say, wow, because you can save yourself so much time, and it still came from you, but it's no different than if you dictated into a thing, gave it to your executive secretary, and say, get this to whatever editor and give me something that right, that's good.
Which is how every executive, no executive sitting there typing his own stuff,
typing. Yeah.
Except for Elon Musk.
Yeah, well,
he just loves it. He likes to do it. So
yeah, he's great. So
that's his hobby, I think.
There was one other thing that we were talking about before, Noah, and I want to get. It was about this face saving, and you can't talk bad. Okay, so here is what Thai chicks do crazy, and I want to ask you: is this something you find in your practice with people all over, from presumably from many cultures, but mostly probably Western cultures? But so this Asian culture. So here's what a Thai chick does. So because you can't talk back, she knows what irritates you, right? She knows. So if she wants to do something that you're going to disapprove of, right? Or she just wants to have an excuse to do something that you'll disapprove. She knows you won't like it. What she either did or what she's going to do. She will little bit by bit get at you until you not explode necessarily, but until you talk bad. Once you talk bad, she has her license to do whatever. So that's what I want to talk about.
The feminine is constantly seeking. The feminine is constantly seeking justification.
Yes.
So they don't care really about right and there is no such a thing as right and wrong. There's approval and disapproval.
That's right.
And justification for disapproval.
Right.
And so justification needs to be manufactured if it's not there inherently. And so they will manufacture it. And that's common to all feminine minded. Even men who are feminine minded will do that. Yeah. And you'll see that in politics all the time.
Oh, you did this, so now I can do anything I want.
Yeah. So they'll take a bunch of out of context quotes from Trump and say that justifies shooting at him.
Yeah. Well, say Scott Adams, Dilbert fame. He did a great
fuck you money.
Great Twitter post a while back where he talked about this. He said, with every Trump is Hitler, so you're stopping Hitler. So anything you do, it's okay. It's okay because you're stopping Hitler, right?
Yeah.
So you manufacture Hitler. Trump is Hitler. So then anything you do, it doesn't matter. It's justified. It's not right or wrong, like you said, Noah. Perfect. That's a great distinction. Great.
Right and wrong.
That's the money quote of the whole thing right there.
Yeah.
Not right or wrong.
I've got a question for Noah quickly.
What?
Go ahead.
It just sprung to my mind, Noah, just what you were saying about approval and disapproval, not right and wrong, which is so fascinating to me because when I get in conversations, or let's say I'm eating food with a woman or two women, or I'm in a group of guys and girls, when I tell a story or explain something, if I say a story to you guys, you'll go, oh, you like it, it's funny, it's not, whatever. But with women, much more, it's like, is it good or is it bad? Should I approve or should I disapprove? Am I supposed to like it's sort of, it's very strange. It's everything must be immediately put into approval or disapproval.
Exactly.
And if there's anyone else in the room, they're
It's like, what do
immediately
they
looking
approve?
for consensus.
It's
Exactly.
so weird.
Should I approve or disapprove based on consensus? This is why one-on-one, even the worst feminists treat me really well.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you get into a group and they start to look. So here's what I've done. I've gone to a group of youngish women, you know, early 20s, and I'm with a bunch of guys. And I'm trying to teach the guys how to talk to women. And I will say the most outrageous thing possible to them. Like, my friends and I were talking, and I was telling them that I don't think women should be allowed to vote. And we wanted to get your opinion on this. What'll happen is the hot girl, she'll be like, yeah, I don't need to vote. I'm hot, basically. She won't say it exactly like that, but I already got power over men. What do I care about voting? And it'll immediately divide the girls into two groups where the attractive ones start towing the line with the most attractive girl, because almost always the most attractive girl that responds. Awesome. And the ugly fat chick in the group, she's the one that's adamant that she must retain her right to vote because she is not sufficiently attractive and nice enough to get men's support without the force of government.
It's so hilarious. When I get pushback on the stuff I do, and I don't get it much, I have a lot of female members who read my stuff. Even my ex-wife, Beatrice, she just texted me the other day, how's it going? She knows everything about my girlfriends, my threesomes, all this stuff. She gets a kick out of it. She's a good woman, right? We parted because she had a different path in life, and we're in our 60s. She was like 60, I was 59, and it's like, go our separate ways. You got your retirement. It's good. We're good. We're good to go. Yeah. And we're still.
You're both happier this way than you were before.
We're happy. We're happy, yeah. Right? She's been with a guy she likes for a good long while now, and she gets a kick out of my stuff, and we have a great exchange of values, you know, and she's asked me some stuff about the past because she was curious about how I really felt and stuff, and I've told her. So we've had, I think, mutually uplifting conversations in that way. But it's really cool what you're putting out there about this, Noah. How here's okay. So the pushback.
Here, let's tie this in with current events.
Yeah.
When Trump did this,
yeah,
he made the collective pussies of America wet.
Yeah. So
like that.
Exactly.
Women are writing. Leftist women are now writing. You can see this on Twitter. That when I saw how Trump reacted, and this is when I say women, I'm including some feminine-minded men in this too. When I saw how Trump reacted, it suddenly changed my opinion of him. I don't want to like him, but all of a sudden I can't help it.
That, to me, that is a perfect. I tell one of my kryptonite girl. I tell her this. I say, here, let me grab one. Here. Here's a 10 baht coin, right? I tell her, I say, love, hate. And so when she gets on me or something like that, I'm like, or on text, it gets on me, I say, oh, I guess the coin flip was hate today. Well, I'll just wait till the love flips up. You know, the thing is women, they're like these gerbils in a wheel, you know, or terrier dogs, you know, it's like, always. And the worst thing you can do is be defensive or respond too harshly or anything. You know what my greatest way in dealing with women, I had this one. I love her. That she's cool. She's back in her province right now. I want to visit her soon, I hope. But she would get angry at me. I'd be hitting the gym and I come back, I turn off my phone, right? Or I have it on silent, whatever. So I come out of the gym and I see what 43 messages. And they're all half of them are in English, and she's very good at writing English. She doesn't use translate, because it's filled with spelling errors and everything, but she knows the words. She just doesn't spell them right. So I can get it, and half are in Thai, so those I have to translate, right? I get down, and it's like this barrage of blah blah blah, blah you the blah 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 blah. You know what I say? 2 words, and it makes her laugh. It ends it. It ends it every single time like that. 2 words. Calm down. Boom. Calm down. And half the time she says, I already did. And it's over. But if you go through and you start saying, no, this is bullshit. This is bullshit. What you said, like that. You said this bullshit. Just let it go. Let them say whatever. Let them, they're kind of just getting it out. So they've kind of like
well, I think women also think socially more than men. Like, I know that's a bit of a generalization. We're thinking socially now whilst talking, but it's coffee shops that get me. So if I sit down, I have to write an email or I'm on my phone, I think I'll just sit here and there's 4 women or 3 women, they sit and they talk. And sometimes I just look at them and it looks like they go, they're like talking in speed motion to each other, like leaning forwards in their seats, staring at each other. And I'm just, and I love that idea that men used to hunt by like sitting next to each other, facing out into the the prairie or wherever it is, and we sit kind of side by side on benches and stuff. And women like to sit opposite each other more. I know it's such a fascinating dichotomy how the sexes managed to dimorphize so prominently in so many areas. It never ends. How fascinating it is to me.
I'm very, I wish I'd learned this when I was 20 years old, but I'm rapidly even racing toward the idea because I see it in practice, because like I say, I maintain several relationships at the same time. Then it's honest. They know about each other and everything. And so it's like the less you say, the better. Really, the less you say, the better. If you don't respond, it is oftentimes the far better than anything you could have possibly said, other than something like, okay, or yeah, oh yeah, okay, I'll think about it, or whatever.
A lot of it also is micromanagement. Like, I think because Richard, you're in a place where you're seeing these different women and they're coming in and out, they're sliding doorsing. You've got the advantage. I'm not saying it's a better life to have. So let's say you've got Richard with his wife versus you, the 2 lives. You're both enjoying your lives in the way that you are. I think yours, you don't have to deal with this, what I'd call nagging. There's a certain pattern that you can just avoid by not answering their phone calls. You can say, "Oh, that girl, she was annoying last time. She calls you up, you just avoid her." I think when you've got a girlfriend or wife, when you've got you have to forge your way through that very differently.
True.
When you're in a long-term relationship, especially if you're going to have kids, you have to, as a man, you have to recognize that women sometimes want to fight.
Yeah.
Like they need that drama because this guy's awfully calm. I don't know what's going to happen if some man challenges him. Well, I'm going to poke him a bit to see. I used to say, my wife doesn't do this anymore, but I used to say that she wanted to see the bear. So she'd annoy me. And it was like every 6-8 weeks, she'd annoy me. And what it was she wanted me to get angry at her, to get up in her face, do the gorilla thing where your chest is out and go, I'm not taking any more of that shit.
Yeah.
And when you'd be very direct about it, she wanted me to be a little bit scary.
Yeah.
It made her feel safe. And it was always followed up by her sudden, she wouldn't apologize. Women don't really do that.
No,
but she would be, she'd suddenly be quiet.
They'll apologize for like some little tiny thing.
Unimportant thing.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't take out the garbage. They'll apologize for that. But if it's anything of import, no.
Yeah.
they've never been wrong
What
once in their
what
life.
reminded me about this boundaries thing, though, when you're saying that with relationships, it doesn't have to be a sexual relationship. It could be, so I had a great aunt, Avril, who never let you leave the house. And then there's 100 stories, but the one story is, it was my mum's birthday and my dad had to get back. He had to go drop something off to her, and she lives in, an hour's drive. Anyway, it gets to 9 p.m. He's like, I've got to go. And eventually, this one time, it's his aunt and my great aunt, so he's got a lot of respect for her. She was in her sort of 80s at the moment. And he just said, Avril, I'm going. And he goes out to the car and he drives off. And she never did it again. And then I had this experience with my aunt. I used to go and see my aunt, so my father's sister, similar kind of thing. She's a little bit lonely. She was married to an Egyptian. She now lives in Wimbledon near us, but she has sons sometimes over. She doesn't live with anyone, and she'll kind of cling on to you and get to leave. Like, I try and be polite but firm. Anyway, so I walk in with my ex-girlfriend a few years ago, and for some reason we're around hers, and we go and have some tea, or have a chat with her. And after an hour, Sophie, my ex-girlfriend, says, right, Avril, sorry, Annette, to my aunt, we're going to go. Thank you so much for having us. And she just walks to the door, opens the door, and walks out. And I was like, I said, Annette, see you later. She sort of half grabbed me, walked to me. I said, Sophie, that is ingenious. She said, yeah, sometimes you've just got to, you. And the weird thing is, when I saw Annette the next time, it's like she liked those boundaries being set. It's like a little tweak. You've got a space between these two spaces. You've got behavior between there and there that's acceptable, not to their rider. In the, Jonathan Haidt, the rider and the elephant, the rider being the conscious. You're not speaking to their rider. You're speaking to a woman's elephant, her subconscious, or
Yes.
whatever that word is. I
Guys,
think something like that.
we're
Yeah.
getting in time here. So how about let's do a big overall view of the state of the world. Uh, Andy, why don't you start? You're kind of the most unconventional in terms of political views and
People
so
say
on.
this to me, so I don't really. What I say is I discuss issues 2.5 to 3 years after they happen. So things like COVID, I'd talk about COVID now. Not that I want to. Let's not do it. But all this stuff like that, like, Trump getting shot, or the current news. I just find all of these fads, every single one of them, just tiresome. It doesn't interest. I like tech. I like learning about stuff. But this news story here, and Biden this, and this president here, and this war. Oh, look at Russia, Ukraine. Sometimes some things interest me to talk about, but when you say the state of the world, I think there's too many pronouncements, too many, oh, well, we've got this pattern here, so in 5 years it's going to do this, whether it's AI, whether it's Putin, whether it's whatever it is. So for me, current affairs, as little hundreds of stories, they don't interest me in the slightest. I have to work for myself. I work. What do I want to do? What do I want to do with my family, my friends? How do I learn? When it comes to the state of the world, I could not be less interested, in the nicest possible way. That's where I stand on it, as unconventional as that is.
Noah.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. Like the details we can't predict so easily. I believe I can predict the grand arc of history that we're on. And I think we're on this arc where the sleepers are awakening and people are starting to wake up. We are the bad times are starting to create the strong men.
That's
And I actually
Agreed.
think Europe's ahead of the
Agreed.
curve in this over the US.
yes. Yeah, is that yeah, it's a great encapsulation, Noah, and
Yeah.
I like 100% down with that. It's to me the big trend is that people who didn't care before are seeing that they have to care, at least in terms of who what the cultural things are going. They're seeing their own cultures being destroyed, and Europe
We,
especially.
we've also people like you and me talking about how you're manipulated. I wrote the book on manipulation. Literally, I literally wrote the book on it. It's behind me here. That book talking about exactly in detail how you're being manipulated and what to do about it. We've been talking about the lies. It's not just us. There's been maybe a couple hundred people that have been honestly speaking about this for more than 10 years, maybe 15, 20 in some cases. And what's happening is that we've demystified the most powerful weapon that the enemy has, which is manipulation and lies. If they can't trick us, then it's a fair fight.
Yeah,
And they won't win a fair fight.
so you have there's kind of this just to put it in a kind of simple terms, the force of good and the force of evil, right? So
You could actually call good truth and evil lies. You could layer them on each other.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
I mean, that is exactly
or
how the Bible
my
has it.
formulation,
God is truth and
fully
Satan is
integrated,
lies.
fully integrated dishonesty versus fully integrated honesty, right? So honest. The reason I like to use the word honesty over truth, lie, falsehood, so on, is because honesty is dynamic. You can tell, you can actually use, truths or facts. So I can put together everything is factual, but it paints a lie. You know what I mean? Right?
Do you know,
So
we had this conversation in the first talk that we had that I re-listened to about 4 years ago. It's fascinating about honesty. I completely agree.
yeah. So, but you're honest or you're not honest. Honest means the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. That's kind of the legal formulation of honesty, right? So, what we're getting at is that things for the and here's another thing I say, and I use the word truth. Truth, it requires no maintenance. The truth is truth. Boom. What does the lie require? A lie requires constant maintenance. And in the technological world where information flow is such as it is and access to it by everybody, the overhead to maintain lies has jumped the shark. That you cannot maintain lies anymore. You used to be able to. If you can control information, you can maintain a lie for a fuck of a long time, right?
Yeah.
Everyone will believe it. Now it requires constant maintenance. You got to constantly be propping up the lie, propping up the lie, propping up the lie. And
Richard,
it comes down to economics. You can't
what's
afford
the main motif of the Bible, Richard, of the New Testament? In one word, what's the main motif of the Bible, of the New Testament?
redemption.
Yeah, or sacrifice. And in some sense, what's happening is what you're doing is you're not sacrificing. You're living in the now by lying. You're saying, I can get away with twisting the fabric of reality. I can get away with this lie now so that this person invests in my company, or whatever the lie is. But in the long run, it's expensive in the long run because you've got to keep it up. It's kind of like, it sounds really weird, but this motif of sacrifice. So let's say you think, do I want to sniff this line of cocaine, or do this, do this or beat this person up, or kill this person, whatever these things are that are going to benefit us in the short term, but not in the long term. For me, it's exactly the same as the motif of sacrifice. It's basically being smarter is being longer term thinking. I don't know why that reminded me of Revelation, but when you were talking about, I don't know, I've been thinking about the Bible recently, not in a religious way, not in a theistic God, no God way, but just in a collection of culture for thousands of years. And I think it's such an interesting thing.
I just wrote a post. The literal title is "Why the Holy Bible is the Greatest Book Ever Written."
But it ends on Revelation, Richard, and Revelation is actually the idea for me. It's Revelation. I don't think is like looking. I don't think it's what people think it is. I think it's a mushroomified, so like a psilocybin induced collection of thoughts on inspiration. The idea that thoughts appearing to you. Do you remember you said it came to me? That's what a revelation is. And when you reread Revelation with that in mind, it all makes sense. Jesus comes back as a judge, because what it is you've got judging and mercy, and you've got to balance it through the whole New Testament. He was mercy personified, and then he comes back as a judge. And it's such a fascinating collection of stories.
Revelations is very interesting as well, because
it's a
builds
story. You should have listened to me. You should have heeded my advice. Right. And I was willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. You didn't do it. And so now the hammer comes down. I mean, it's a classic. That's it. All of these. Here's what's great about the Bible civilizationally, right? It's the first real program that worked. The Romans took it, say, we're going to run with this one. Right. And it became the greatest.
It's a hyperlinked story. It's thousands of stories linked together over tens. It's probably 10,000 years old.
Amazing, really. Yeah.
With Revelations too, if you look at it, it's got a pyramid shaped story structure, and so these are the things that are going wrong, and the bad things are happening, bad things are happening, bad things are happening. Judgment, and then the second side is rectifying every single bad thing that happened, getting us back into a paradise-like situation.
This is like
and it's
life
a
as a mirror.
perfect,
This is
final
it's a perfect mirror.
accountability, right? Everything balances and this interacts with every other kind of cultural sort of yin yang. So in the end, balance is always achieved, right?
But it's balanced through opponent processing. So you've got, it's not that you're in the light or in the dark. It's not that it's day or night. It's that you keep waving between day and night. And actually, for quite a lot of the day and the night, it's not quite day, it's not quite night. And the day and the night is the same as the circadian rhythm of day and sleep. All of these opponent processing, for me, that's kind of the whirring of the world. If you take acid and you sit there and you all your perceptive fields, so you've got 16 million bits coming in per second, and you can process 11 million coming in, and you can process about 16 bits. So can I, 16, 17, 15, whatever. But when you're on acid, that 15, 16, 17 goes up to tens of thousands. So
Really?
I'm not trying to say
it's because you're activating your subconscious mind.
Well, this is the thing about LSD, and I'm not proposing LSD. I'm not for LSD or against, but what it does is it stretches closed-minded, low IQ people. And I'm not saying this is good or bad. I'm not saying anything good about any individual. People who are closed-minded and think of very ordered, but in a very inflexible manner, kind of way of looking at things, and the IQ low, they correlate very much with bad trips, with not being able to deal with long-term issues. But if you've got an open-minded person who's also organized, who's high IQ, and it doesn't have to be acid. It's whatever. What I think it does is it opens the perceptive field, and the brain, it's like a filter, because what the brain actually is the brain is what's the word? It's not, how do I call it? It's decreasing the information coming in. It's a filter rather than an expressor. So in some sense, consciousness, we don't know whether we emit consciousness, EMIT. We might actually permit consciousness. This is such a weird thought. Have you ever thought of that as consciousness
like we're an
permeating
antenna
through? It's almost like complexity allows for antenna that I don't know how to describe it, but it's very, very. I think that we permit consciousness rather than we emit it.
Mm-hmm. And we are definitely filtering, and I talk about this all the time with guys, is that so many men in the West do not have the dark side, the shadow side, or whatever you want to call it, properly integrated in their brain, so they can't have that dichotomy between the dark and the light there, where they bounce back and forth.
Bloodlust,
the bloodlust, you'll see this with a lot of very Christian men, where they can't admit that they find a woman attractive, and they can't admit what their brain tells them to do.
Yeah,
they can't admit the desire for fighting, the desire for women, the desire to take what other people have, that pops up in the back of our head, because our brain is an infinite possibility generator. And then at some point, we got to filter that through, so that most of those ideas are really bad. And by the time it gets to the front and gets acted upon, we need to have the best of all those ideas acted upon, and the rest need to be suppressed.
One might say that one of the biggest problems in human evolution, as we are right now, is the propensity of men to signal virtue rather than take action. What do you think, Noah? The internet has just blown this up, where they think, instead of like going out and doing stuff and doing good stuff, whatever it is, whatever your thing is, right? Build a table or build a house or take out the garbage, whatever.
And unfortunately, Christianity actually increased that signal to action ratio.
Yeah.
Under the pagan or it's kind of a derogatory term to call them, but under the pre-Christian religions, the polytheistic religions, it was your deeds that made you righteous or evil. And under Christianity, it was the absence of evil deeds that made you righteous. So don't do these things.
And
are you not sleeping with women because you can't? Are you not violent because you can't? Those things don't make you. And our old philosophers would talk about this. Your inability to do bad is not a virtue.
Right. Yeah. So, but the internet now has exploded. So you have millions, billions even, of people every day getting online to make themselves feel good because they find something that goes against their values, and they they go like this, and it makes them a good person, or they condemn it, right? You can see stuff where like blah 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 blah. Or on the opposite side, somebody has a problem. I like to refer to prayer as literally the least you can do. So somebody has a problem, and you see these comments like prayers, I'm praying, 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 and people do that because it's a micro act that makes them feel like they're a good
Richard, can I just make a point on that? Can I just make a point on prayer, right? It really annoys me. So just like the idea that heaven and hell, I think, are here on earth. You know, you build a good life and you're in heaven, and let's say you become a drug addict, you go hell, or whatever these things are. I think wait, what was the point you were just making?
That the prayer is like, people say, oh, I'm praying, as though like they're invoking the literal power of the universe in your behalf.
But Richard,
right?
This is what I think prayer is. I think prayer is very specific, right? So if I sit on the end of my bed or do whatever I want to do, sit in a park or like, I don't know, whatever, wherever people pray, you know, and I stop and what you're doing when you're praying is you're asking a question. For me, praying is not, oh, please let my dog live through its operation. Praying is asking a question. So do you know what Noah was saying earlier about the subconscious kind of filtering through to the conscious or the unconscious? I think that's what prayer is. Prayer is asking for an answer to something. It's not hoping. I don't think.
Well, that's the correct way to do it, though. You're talking about the correct way versus people's virtue signaling version of it, which Richard's talking about. And that's part of the problem is with spirituality, we have junk food spirituality. Which is the majority of churches are junk food for the soul. And there are very few that truly nourish it. Even the Bible mentions that, where it says there's a lot of Christians that just want to keep drinking milk like babies, and they don't want to actually develop their spirituality.
I'd never seen this before in my life. I've known plenty for like 8 months, but first time she said, I said, come over tonight, sleep here. And she says, I don't usually come sleep with my friends because I get up every night at 3 and I do my prayers for 2 hours. I said, well, go ahead. Right. So I had to get up a couple of days, but literally she's sitting over here on the couch. She has a small light, so she has a prayer book thing, but not one. She didn't utter one word. Just totally peacefully, almost motionless.
Isn't that quite attractive? I think that's quite attractive.
Oh, well, I won't tell you what happened after she finished her prayers. It wouldn't be gentlemanly. But
she's in a very relaxed state, which is
she was done. She was done, and she was ready. I mean, oh my God.
Richard, on that note, let's do this again before the end of the year. It's been awesome catching up with you guys.
You know, the last time we did this, I think about April 2020. So we're over 4 years. I was in Chiang Mai still. And
we gotta do this at least once a year, at least.
Yeah, we should.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Who even cares if anybody watches it or gives a shit? We had a good time, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna
Noah, awesome to chat to you, buddy. I've got to head off because it's midday, but good stuff, and go from strength to strength.
Take care, gentlemen. I got to eat
something
and got some appointments. Take care. Bye.
Okay.